So we're going to get started. All right, welcome again. We have with us Tara and Pedro of Marriage Can Heal, and they are going to be answering some of our questions from our ladies that about their marriage, and about how to get along with our spouses. So I'd like to begin by the first question that we have. We have about 5 questions. If you'll just take a couple of minutes to answer each of the questions. But I think this question
Okay.
is for Tara. Tara, while you were separated, what did you do? What were you doing? Were you praying for your marriage, your partner to come back, or for you to be back together, or were you focusing on yourself and your goals?
Well, when we were separated, my first initial thing was not to actually just leave, you know what I mean, my husband. But because the way the situation was going, I felt like I needed to have space. I needed the space to think and to see, where God wanted to take me. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of, do I want to continue being in this marriage, or, is it going to change? Because at that time, my mindset was so different. You know what I mean? It wasn't a sense of giving up because I believed in marriage, because I saw my parents be married over 30 years. So I knew how important marriage was. And I knew I just wasn't going to just walk away from it. I just wanted to see a change. But with that change, I needed to have the space to think and have God work on me. As much as I was, wanting God to change my husband, I still needed to change. I needed change for myself as well. So having that break and just time to just, learning how to be a wife for the first time, because, he had been married before, twice before. So, just getting that all together in my head and just allowing God to just learning God more, praying and saying, God, I don't want to leave my husband. I want my children to have their father. I don't want them to be fatherless in the earthly form, but I knew God was always there. But I wanted my children to experience both parents, just like I did. And with that, when I stayed with my mom for a while, and she told me, because my father's deceased now, so it was just my mom. So my mom told me, are you going to go back to your husband? What you going to do? After I had been there for a while. And Pedro asked me to come back. And I said, Pedro, I want to come back, but I need time to think. I want God to tell me to come back. And as I was talking to my mom, and the day I told my mom, I was saying, Mom, I think I'm going to do it. The only way I'm going to see a change in my husband, I need to see. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I don't go back and decide to divorce, how I know if he had to change. I won't know until I go back into the situation. And it was a scary thing, because I was like, what if we go back to, I had all the what ifs. What if this happened? What if this abuse started back again? What if we go back to how we was before? I didn't know if I was able to mentally prepare myself for that. But when God gave me the yes, I was, I was walking in fear. So I ain't gonna even lie. I was walking in fear, going back to Bermuda. And then when I got there, I started seeing change, slowly. We had our little moments where we had arguments. And when we did, I was prepared for the worst. And then when the worst didn't happen, I was like, wow, he's really not blowing up like he used to. Or I was just kind of, just feeling my way out, learning my husband again. You know what I mean? Because I felt like I had to relearn how to love him. Saying how to accept the things that we have been through. I was not going to allow hate to come into my heart, because I knew if that happened, it wasn't no coming back. You know what I mean? If I hardened my heart towards my marriage, I knew, how God was going to change me if I wasn't in the mind frame of wanting change.
You told me that, actually.
Yeah.
You told me that you was losing.
Yeah, I said I love you, because the intimacy in our marriage was kind of off point for me, because I was like, I don't want to feel like we only being intimate to make things better. To me, I felt like it made things more complicated for me, because the way I was thinking, I was like, do I love him? Do I not love him? Like, where's my feelings going? Like, is it just intimacy, or is this really just love? And I knew love wasn't enough for us to keep our marriage going. I needed God to really come in and change my heart to accept the change that God was doing in him. Because I had been praying for him, for the Lord change my husband, change his heart. It wasn't about changing his mind, but his thought. God work in the inside first. And I knew God needs to change his heart to see things the way he saw it. Because no matter how much I said, Pedro, I need to see you in this light, until God showed him that, you know, I had to wait. It was like a waiting game. I had to wait and just see and try to see my husband differently. He started showing me, God started showing me through my husband how he had changed. And that was the way he talked to me, the way he, you know, like his voice wasn't elevating like when we have arguments, and it was just different. It was just a whole different concept. And I was like, wow, I'm able to really get to see him now in this different light that I didn't think that I would see, but I always knew it was there because I always saw the good in my husband. I never wanted to see the worst part of what I had experienced.
Thank you. Thank you. That's important. Yeah. And so I think the next question was, what made you come back together during this time of separation? So did I hear you say that Pedro asked you to come home? Is that kind of what's got, because in your mind, did you have like a amount of time that I'm going to be gone this amount of time, or were you just waiting for him to say, okay, babe, come on back home, give me another chance? Or so tell me about this process. Or were you, I mean, can you kind of elaborate on that?
Can I just say, I think during this whole process, I was not forcing her to do anything.
Yeah.
So while she was leaving, because she left multiple times, each time she'll say, look, I need to leave. Okay, I'll buy the ticket. Here you go. And then when you're ready to come back, I'll buy a ticket. You can come back.
Right.
I even set her up twice in Alabama with 2 different apartments so that she could move there, because her mind was always to like leave and move into the apartments, and I'm gonna find a job, and you know I'm gonna stay in Alabama. And I was like, okay, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, then that's what you do.
Right.
And I so each time, and I was always, believe it or not, I think me being supportive of her decision, even though I did not want her to leave, but being supportive of her leaving, I think helped us too. Because I was, at no point I was never like, no, you can't go, no, don't go. I was always supportive in her decision and leaving.
That is true, because I think I had told a good friend of mine that I was talking to in confidence. And it was only one person that I feel God had sent to me to help, you know, just talk with me through the process. And I believe if he would have been like, you ain't leaving, you ain't going nowhere, I would have felt like a prisoner in my own marriage. You know what I'm saying? I would have felt like he ain't letting me leave. You know, he making me stay when I don't want to be here. And I think that actually helped me to work through the feelings that I was feeling. You know what I'm saying? Being a first-time wife, you know, not that my stepchildren were bad children. They always accepted me. But just you know, taking that role on as being a mother, and you know, it was just a lot, you know, going on. But when he asked me to come back, I was actually ready. I was ready to. I was ready to. I wasn't sure how the outcome was going to be. So I was a little afraid of how things would maybe turn out.
I appreciate you sharing that from both of you all's perspective, because where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty, you all. And so I feel like God laid it on Pedro's heart or Pedro's heart to give you liberty, you know, because that's what God does. He gives us liberty that Satan uses force, you know. So, and that's what we see is when we want to reflect Satan's character, you go try to use force for somebody. You don't want to listen to me. I'm going to force you by making my words louder. I'm going to put my hands on you. And then I'm going to try to block the door. These are his principles, of course, you know, but for somebody to go from using those principles to freedom, I mean, that's showing that the change that's in his heart, in Pedro's heart, is happening in the way he's dealing with you, you know, because he's supportive and he's not trying to make you stay, make you come back, but it's giving you choices, you know, and I think that's important as we consider these things, just giving people freedom, because Christ gives us freedom. And trust in him, you know, that's what I'm saying is that, I didn't want to leave, but I needed to leave. And I think that time was good to give you some space to, you know, to just have a connection with Christ and to just really see. And then when it's time to go, he told you it's time to leave. And then he tells you when it's time to go back home, you know, so being able to hear the Holy still small voice saying, get out of here, now go back, you know, so I appreciate you sharing that.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, at one point I was thinking of maybe I can be single. Maybe I can do this by
Yeah.
myself. Maybe I can raise my kids by myself. I can go to Alabama, you know, get to Birmingham, find me a job and everything. And it seemed like everything I was trying to do wasn't opening up that way. You know what I'm saying? Like I couldn't get the job like I thought I was gonna. I just thought everything was just gonna, you know, be one way in my head because I was trying. I really at one point was like, well, maybe I can do it. And then a pastor friend of ours had came to Birmingham in Huntsville to go to like a pastor's retreat thing. You know how they do it in the church or whatever. So he was down there for that weekend. He came over to our house because I knew them from Bermuda, and he had told me, you know, you need to go back to your husband, right? You can't just sit here in this apartment with these kids all by yourself, and your husband is, you know, all the way over there. What you gonna do? You know, you can't stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed confirmation from, you know, from God, and He showed that through other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I had decided to go back and everything, and just try to see how God was gonna manifest Himself in our marriage.
Amen. And that's important, you know. That's a verse I share with my children. Hear instruction and be wise and refuse it not. That's a proverb, you know. Someone give you some sound counsel, try to be willing to be humble and hear it, you know. Just be willing to say, okay, let me think about this. No, I'm not listening to you. I'm grown. I can do this on my own. But being willing to listen to counsel from other people. So, Pedro, as you are think about the past,
definitely, because I didn't feel. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. Just kind of,
sorry?
you know, my question is, when you think about the past, because the enemy likes to come in and he likes to throw things up in our face, like, well, you did this, you did that. And how do you deal with these thoughts as you think about, does shame come up? You know, how do you deal with it when you think about, I mean, is that something you find yourself dealing with? Or for example, we have women that may be dealing with I mean, just kind of like the bad decisions that we've made in the past, and how do you stop those from just causing you to feel shame? And how do you go forward from, like, when you make mistakes, how do you go forward and not let the negative self-talk keep you down?
When I read this question, I was like, I've always told people that I don't worry about what I've done in the past. I feel like every good and bad thing I've done in the past has shaped me to be the man I am or the father I am today. So I don't regret anything. And I know that may sound kind of weird, but I honestly don't regret anything that happened, because everything that happened was like in place to put me where I am now, to put us here, to put us in this marriage, to put us together. Allow us to be a voice in the church that can talk to other couples or talk to other people about, look, we've been through this. I know you may be going through this, but this is how you can come out of it. So I just really feel like God let things happen to me. And even the abuse towards my wife, even the meanness, that the stuff that I was doing to my wife, it wasn't her fault, it was my fault. So I take responsibility. But I know that I honestly feel like God was allowing me to do it so that we could get to where we are now, because He knew how strong my wife was. And I know that may sound kind of like backwards, but it's almost like, because my wife was so strong, it allowed her, it made her stronger, it made us stronger, and then it allowed us to be stronger together as a couple. So that's the best way I can answer that question, because I don't feel no shame. That's why we talk about it. So I don't feel no shame for what happened in my past behaviors. I'll talk about it, and if you have a question, you want to ask me what I was thinking, I can tell you what I was thinking. Most times I wasn't thinking. Most times I was just trying to get rid of her. She was getting on my nerves. I was like, maybe if I'm abusive, maybe she'll leave. Maybe she'll go away. But that'll be the most to that extent in answering that question.
So Pedro, do you feel like, do you believe that, I'm thinking it's kind of like, what I think I'm hearing you say is, it's kind of one thing to go into church, but it's another thing to be a converted Christian. Because let's say you're the one that kind of led her in ways,
Yeah.
but you weren't really walking with the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? Is that what I'm hearing from you? It's just like you were new, God made you a new creature. Yeah, you was going to the church, and yeah, you brought your wife to the church or the 7-day Sabbath and things, but you weren't walking with the Lord. You weren't letting him guide your decision. And that's the old man. But now he's made you a new creature, and the things that you used to love, you don't love them anymore. You hate those things, and the things you hated, you love, like you love your wife now. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Would that be another way to kind of say what you said?
Yes, well, that'd be a good way to put it, right? So my past transgressions, my past behaviors, I don't love them. I don't think about them anymore. To the point of that, sometimes Tara would say something, and I'm like, I did that, and I'm shocked. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know I did that. So because I've actually let it leave my head, or I've actually let it. I just don't think about it, because I like you said, God has changed me completely. Where and in honesty, that is actually true. I can tell you exactly when God changed me. It was in 09, no, 08, around Christmas time. That's when I got into an argument with a little girl, and I got arrested, and I got sent to jail. And then, well, I didn't really get in an argument. I kind of yelled at the girl, and the mother thought I was being too aggressive, which I was, because I was in a dark place. And when I went to jail for that, and I got out, then I had to go back. That's when God changed me. That's when he was taking the old Pedro, and he was starting to build me up. It still took me a while. That wasn't like when I changed completely. That was like the start of my change. And when he was taking away the old Pedro, the temper Pedro, the person that flew off the handle, got upset, I was still working on it, but God definitely was working. He started working on me then to change, to put me to where I am now. Everything that happened from that point put me where I am with Tower, and I just know God was leading me down that path. I was trusting in Him, and He was leading me down that path each and every day.
Amen.
So yeah, that would be, you're exactly right.
Amen. I think about Joseph's brothers, how they meant evil against him, but God meant it for good to save many people alive. So even with your marriage,
right.
using your marriage to show people that I can save your marriage, and your marriage can heal, So that's what I'm saying from it, that He can take ashes and make it beautiful. And so I understand what you're saying. I think I understand. And I think Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 and 14, brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Forgetting those things.
Yes.
Getting those things and pressing forward in faith and looking to God for victory day by day.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the next question. How do you deal? Because it sounds like there was a lot of ugly talking in the midst of y'all in the past. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody whose spouse likes to do ugly speaking about Christians or about their pastor? I guess it seems like this person, they're married to an unbeliever, and so their spouse is saying, inappropriate things about their pastor and other people who are choosing to walk in this Christian life. She's asking, do you feel like you should defend the church or defend this person, or do you not say anything?
Well, I would say, if I went to Pedro and said, well, the pastor said this, and he was like, well, I don't, okay, the pastor said that. I wouldn't want the pastor to speak to both of us. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't want it to be a one-sided thing, because not everybody going to accept that. Oh, that's what the pastor says. Or you're making a husband feel like, oh, if you don't do this, nobody want to feel like you telling them what they have to do, because change don't happen like that. You know what I'm saying? Change have to come. You in a way of, like, I had to learn talking to Peter, like, look, I want you to do this, but I know I can't make you do it. Or no matter what I said, somebody told me this, or the pastor told me this, or we went to counseling. You remember what the counsel said, but at the same time, he didn't get that in his head. You know what I'm saying? Nothing that I said was going to change him. Nothing that or what the pastor may have said may have changed that person. I think the change has to happen from the person wanting it. You know what I'm saying? No matter what nobody say, because he's just going to take it as a defense mechanism when she's like,
looking more. I'm sorry. I'm looking more. I think the person is saying they go to church.
No. I'm gonna. So I was.
That's where I took it.
Right. And that's something different.
Yeah.
So, we had the discussion. I said that I was saying anything like when we met. Ty was Baptist. I was Adventist, but I never forced my Adventism on her. I never was like, you need to become Adventist. We have known couples that were some were Adventist and some were not. I mean, the partner wasn't. We've known a couple that the partner has come over to become Adventist at some point, and even after I think 10, 15 years or 20 years of marriage.
Yeah.
With the talking ugly stuff, the way I would say answer that question would be like, more than anything, I think the partner is trying to get a rise out of you.
Right.
So I would just refer back to the Bible. I would refer back to biblical. Number one, the thing that I looked at, she said living in holy life. We're not living a holy life because we're all sinful in nature, but we are trying to live like Christ.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we're not. That's just my opinion. I'm not like we could be holy, but we're not holy like God. We're not holy like in that aspect. So when the person says that to them, like, look, I'm a sinner just like you. I'm just trying to live my life, in a different way, the way God wants me to, the way the Bible tells me to. Just like we have a pastor, he says, don't listen to me, listen to the Bible.
Well, read the word for yourself.
Read the word for yourself. I may preach to you about the Bible. I may preach, and I may say stuff from the Bible, but still go back, look at the Bible, study it, and then get your knowledge from the Bible, and use me as a guide to, think. Don't take everything I say as law. Don't take everything I say as law. Read it for yourself. Study it for yourself. Right. So the only way I can think of responding to that is just like, you can defend them, but more in the sense of just saying, look, the pastor's a sinner just like me. He goes through things just like me. So I will refer to you to the Bible. What does the Bible say? If you have because obviously the person may have a question about something. So look it up in the Bible and say, this is what I came across when I looked it up in the Bible. I mean, that's the best way I could, I would defend.
Or you could take the information that was given to you and talk to your husband in the way as if you ain't trying to say you need to do this or you need to do that. You're like, look, this is what I have learned. Use that information to then communicate with your spouse where they can understand you on the same level. But people be like, oh, you think you're holier than thou, or you think you're better than me because you got this, somebody told you something. People can tell you a whole bunch of things, but people want to feel like, because we're equal in marriage. You know what I mean? So we can't be like, you different than the other person because, you may think different because sometimes in marriage you're not going to think the same.
I don't think she thinks that she's different. I think
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Yes. No, he's reading through the whole thing.
Yes.
But yeah,
I think that kind of takes us to the next question too. The next question about money differences. It seems like both of y'all were believers, but let's just say you're married to an unbeliever and you want to return tithes and offering, but your unbelieving spouse, they're not interested in returning tithes and offering. They want you to put your money in a brokerage account. Have you all ever dealt with anything, or do you have any counsel on just the differences in money management?
So I'm gonna be full disclosure to you. Anyway, I'm gonna be full disclosure. I don't believe in investing brokerages. I don't believe in any stock market. To me, it's a form of gambling because it's up and down. So that's just my belief. I don't believe in. Since she's known me, I've never believed in that.
Yeah.
When it comes to tithes and offering, I struggle with that sometimes. I do admit, being as I'm the sole provider, sometimes the money is just so tight, and I know. And this is a funny thing. I know better. I should be flogged for it. I even admit I should be beat for it because I know better. Because my mother gave her tithes and offering religiously, and like I was saying to Tara, in all honesty, to me, tithes and offering is an investment. And what I mean by that is, when you give your tithes and offering to God, you say, hey, God, here's what you gave me. I'll give it back to you. he invests in you, not just money, but it won't be money, but he'll invest in your marriage. He'll invest in your health. He'll invest in just things in general, general things that happen around you, things that, you know, material things. And I'm not saying I don't want us to think we do tithes and offering for that reason, but you do get blessings when you give your tithes and offering. And I struggle with it because I know sometimes I feel like I may be hindering some of our blessings because I don't pay the tithes and offerings as religious as I should. And I'm just being, and I told her I was going to say this because she was like, are you going to be honest? Are you going to be, and I said, yeah, I'm going to be honest because I have no problem being honest. Just like I say, I'm a human brain. I'm struggling. I have my struggles. Some things I'm good at. Some things I'm still working on. You know, so I'm working on it. But for the spouse, unless their money's connected, you know, she could probably pay her tithes. She wants to pay her tithes and offering. She should pay her tithes and offering. If her husband doesn't, then he doesn't.
And that's
but you know, you still do what you. Sorry.
I say that's that liberty we're talking about. You know, I'm not going to force you to do money what you want to do, but don't try to tell me what to do with mine. You know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But don't try to tell me I can't return tithes and offering. You know.
Yeah. The wife should be entitled if she wants.
Or the husband.
Either person, if they decide that's what they want to do, they should do that. I would never force Pedro to do something that he don't want to do. And I'm sure he wouldn't tell me to do something that I don't want to do. So I feel like if that's the case, you just let the person know, look, this is not something I want to do, but I am going to do this part that I want to do. But the part that you want to do, you do that. You know what I'm saying? And then you pray about that and say, yeah.
Because at the end, the last sentence she put, like, the question was, I know for a fact you pay a tithes and offering, you will get some blessing from that. Either way, God blesses us anyway. But paying a tithes and offering is what is I can't think of the text at the moment because I've been totally blank because all the traffic. But you know, bring all the tithes to the storehouse, right? And you will get your blessing. For me, investing in a brokerage account, I just unless it's like you were saying like a CD where you put it, you just save it.
A savings.
Okay, I mean if you have the proof of that,
yeah. It's saving than brokerage.
But it's that's still dictated. The percentage is still dictated by.
I know, but at the same time, if you got a savings account and you saving money for a rainy day or something like that, you can have that to go back to.
Yeah.
If you're having a hard time, but if you got some in stocks and bonds and the stock market changing, you lose everything. You know what I'm saying? And then if it goes up, then hey, you gain. So it just depends. It's a slippery slope.
It is. It is. All right.
And it's depending on the person.
Right.
So we're sliding in, we're wrapping things up. Well, not quite. We're almost there, but so how have you all been married? 17 years?
17 years.
All right, yeah. So this person is asking, how do you spice things up in your marriage after 20 years?
About this lately.
Just doing little things.
For me, I'm telling Pedro, look, this is what I want. This is what I like. You know, I just let him know. And if I don't like it, I'll be like, I don't like it. You know, I want. That's not going to make me turn on. You know, I need something more. Like I like when he cut his hair and shave and stuff. For some reason, I just like a clean look, and that kind of really. You know, when I first met my husband, I was like, whoa, you know, like he was all cleaned up and yellow. I always remember he wore a yellow shirt with some jeans and some brown boots, and some Timberland boots. And I walked open the door, and I was like, wow, this is a different man. And from that day, I always loved a clean look, and it just made me just look at him and be like, I want my husband. You know what I mean? And it's just that, you know, just different things. But it's talk. Let them know what you don't like. Intimacy is not always just sex. It could be spending time together, going to a movie date, complimenting them, let them know, look, hey, handsome, or hey, your husband, hey, beautiful, how you doing today? You know, just a good conversation sometimes, that's intimacy. People sometimes just think intimacy is only sex, and it's not just that. You know, you bond in so many other ways. But I was for me in our marriage, I would say sex is a priority, and I think it's something that has to happen, and we both have to be connected because it just bonds you in a different way with your spouse because you're able to really, just get to know who they are on another level that no one else can. And that's why I think God instituted marriage so a person can you're like glue, you're like one, and you feel the oneness when both of you are on the same page.
That's so true, and I think that's where it begins before you go into the bedroom. It's the hand holding, it's the talking,
Yes.
it's all of these things before you say good night. Okay, I love you, and and then you go into the bedroom. It's all of these things that lead up to this time. So the intimacy begins with touching, holding, kissing, speaking kind words throughout the day, and that naturally goes into progression.
Right.
But it's also
rubbing my feet, rubbing my legs.
Yeah, rubbing his legs, rubbing his feet. Like, cause the people have spouses sometimes his legs are driving so much, so I rub his legs or I rub his head. It's just different things that you can do, to fight.
Not just that. Cooking for me, making sure the clothes are clean, making sure I get food on the table when I get home, making sure that I'm taken care of, making sure I'm brushing my teeth.
Yeah. Let's say you have sex, you can have sex and then have an argument. It's like, later, you know what I'm saying? Did the sex change anything? You know what I'm saying? So you bonding all over. You know what I'm saying? You bonding from just
quality time together. My mother's coming in July, so when she comes,
when she moved here,
we're gonna maybe once a month or something start actually going on dates together. I mean, because to be honest, we haven't been able to do that because the children are so young. But now they got older, we can kind of leave them home for a couple of hours. We can leave them home for 2-3 hours. We can go on a date.
Yeah.
We can go out to eat.
Yeah.
And then come back home.
Yeah.
So that's how you get spice up your marriage. Just change things out. Don't always be the same. I'm sorry, but as Tara said, just communicate with each other and find out what you want to do.
It's nothing wrong with telling your partner what you don't like. You know what I'm saying, or what you do like.
Right.
Because the worst thing you can do is not say anything. And then you go try to find that outside of your marriage. You know what I'm saying? Then that's when your problems arise. I think we have to talk about these things. We can't be afraid to talk to each other.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, I can go on and on.
No, you can't. I hear you loud and clear. Be willing to communicate. Be willing to communicate.
Yeah.
Communicate what you like. Communicate what you don't like in the small things and the big things. I think.
Yes.
So, and I don't know if you've dealt with this, but how do you correct imbalances in sexual desire?
You said how to correct imbalances in sexual desire. So are you saying my sexual desire? I was trying to understand the question.
Well,
could you be more? Could you give a little bit of what you mean? Because I just want to make sure I have the right idea in my head. That makes sense.
Let me just think. I'm thinking it may be if somebody wants to be together more frequently than the other person, or somebody may have a headache or not feel like it. And it's kind of like an appetite, I guess. Some people want more and some people want less. How do you find that balance when you're dealing with somebody, when dealing with your spouse? And maybe that, I don't know,
Gotcha.
But I think that's what this person may be asking.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to be transparent?
Yes.
Okay, so transparency. So with us, we're talking about for us, we have an imbalance. I always want it more than that, 9 times out of 10 times, where she may be more about 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So, and then the funny thing is, when she wants it, is the one time I don't want it, I may fall asleep.
Yeah.
So, it's always communication. She communicates saying, hey, you know what? I was like, hey, you just went to sleep. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I did not see that. I did not understand what you were saying. For me, it's more anything, just we communicate and we just try to be more perceptive of each other's feelings. So if my wife has a headache, I'll say, okay, you got a headache tonight. Even if I want to, you know what? I want you to feel better before, because for me personally, I always want my wife, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm one of those I'm with my wife, I want us to both enjoy it. I actually don't get enjoyment out of just a quickie.
Right.
I know that I just don't. I don't feel like, I get mine off and then you're sitting there, you're not happy.
Right.
I want us to both be happy because
Right.
that's what makes me happy.
Right.
So it's such a general like question because everybody's so different. It is, I guess it's depending to your situation. It is depending to your circumstance in a way. So, but more than as any other time, it's always communication. Just you gotta, like she said, if she don't like something, she tells me. If she likes it, she tells me. And if I think she likes it, do you like it? Well, tell me that you like it, so that I, continue. I won't do it. Like, like don't sit there and be like, yeah, and then a month later, 2 months, like, yeah, I really don't like that. Because then why didn't you just say something?
But I really do believe that both partners, both people have to say, like what? How many times would you want throughout the week? Twice a week, three times a week, 4 times a week, or whatever. Try to establish that, and try to get a balance in that way, so somebody won't feel left out, from things.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's communicating. I hear you, Tara.
Yeah.
I think that's good. You're saying communicate again. Let's have some ideas so we can be on the same page. Let's talk about
Right.
it. What happens? And I thought you was fine. You didn't say anything, but that's why we're communicating, and we got to take time
Right.
to communicate before we become intimate, so we can kind of have some expectations. We can have clear expectations about what you want
Right.
from me and what I want from you. Thank you.
That's right.
So let's talk about. I talked with a couple. I guess a young lady who was telling me about before she got married, her husband had a lot of female friends, and now that they got married, he still has a lot of female friends. Can you talk about just the healthiness of just the place of opposite sex friends and keeping a healthy relationship with opposite sex friends when you're married? Or do you think it should change? You can cut everybody off? What do you think?
No.
Well, I think it's a dangerous thing. You want to?
Yeah, you just want to go ahead because you want to jump in this one quick.
I do because
But remember, at a time.
Yeah, that's true. Having outside, opposite, me having a male friend and talking to him, and it just can get real. Because if you ain't talking to your husband about these things, and you having the conversation, having it with a friend, and it's more than what it should be, it can go wrong really quickly. So I don't have male friends outside of our marriage because I never did well.
No, you have male friends. You gotta say that wrong. Different.
What, male friends?
You have male friends.
No, it's a difference. I'm talking about male friends in the sense of me calling them,
right, okay.
Talking to them, making time to speak to them like that. I don't have friends like that because I never did good with having guys as friends.
Mm-hmm.
So I just cut it off once me and Pedro got together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the same thing for you, right?
Yeah, for me, I actually knew of somebody that was married and had a bunch of friends that were women. And then it was weird. He was married, but he would talk more about his friends than he did his own wife. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that was weird. Mm-hmm. And that's where the pop falls into. Like, as a male, we have friends. I have female friends, but they're female friends in the sense of friends with both of us. And we have like 1 or 2 friends that we came close with our children that I was friendly with that I could text. But when I text them, I will say to Tara, look, I text so-and-so today to say hi or see how they're doing. Like I would relate to my wife what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I think having the opposite sex is just a recipe for disaster because as a male, there's a phrase I always say, never put yourself in a situation that you can't get out of. And I just use that or that I can't handle. And I just think that sometimes as a male, if I'm having a bad day and that friend as a woman comes along, I don't know what our intentions are. Yeah. Because when you become friends with people and you develop friendship, that's how it always starts out as friends. Right. And then there's always one person, one of the two, one of them has more feelings than the other. So even though I may feel like I don't have no feelings for the woman, she got feelings towards me, and now she's scheming and she's scheming and she's doing things to try to break up our marriage or try to get me in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not gonna put myself in that situation. I'm strong and I believe I'm strong enough to not do anything. I know I'm strong enough not to do anything. But I just say having opposite gender friends can sometimes lead. It can really lead down. It can put you in a rabbit hole and really put your marriage in a bad position that you don't want to put yourself in.
Yeah.
Because it will sneak up on you. You won't even realize it's happening.
It happens. It happens slowly. You know what I mean? They see you having issues. I had a fight with my husband. I had a fight with my wife. And they said, "Oh, really? What happened?" And so now you talking to them instead of communicating with your husband. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So you just opening doors for stuff to happen.
That happened to you.
And yeah, I'm sorry. Just to say this real quick. This happened to me.
No, be quick about it.
I am going to be quick about it. This happened to me. Okay. When me and my husband was getting back together, or was it? What around the time? Yeah. So anyway, it was around that time. We was like that thing was working. Everything was cozy. I had this friend that we had with the church together and everything. We was talking. I thought he was just a friend. He was calling me, and at the same time, he had issues in his marriage as well. So I started talking to him, telling him about our issues and what I had experienced with Pedro. And so anyway, he used that, and one day he was like, "I got feelings for you," and I was like, "Really? Where? I didn't even realize you had feelings." And then it just brought this. I wasn't sure if it was feelings I had, or I was just happy that he noticed in me in a way that I thought my husband should. And one day God just came to me and said, "Tara, you need to cut this off real quick." And because I noticed that he was trying to get more from me. And God, and I said, "I can't." I told the guy, I said, "Look, I told my husband about the situation. I told Pedro about it, and I'm done. I can't talk to you anymore. We can't be friends. I'm done with it. I cut it off."
That's good.
So you remember I talked about how I said I don't. Can I say something real quick about that?
Yeah.
Remember how I said that God puts us in situations, right? So God to be the glory, but that was the moment she realized that I changed.
It did.
Wait, can I say sorry?
Sorry.
Because when she came and told me, I was pissed and I was mad, but I didn't make a sound. I didn't make no movement. I didn't get upset. I was just calm, and I was like, "Okay, let's talk about it. Let's work this out. Let's talk about it. Why did you feel that way? I thought we was in a good terms. I thought we was in a good way. I never got upset. To this day, I actually still speak to the gentleman. To this day, actually, I still speak to him. But even then, I never. And I think when I did that, it shocked her so much that she actually started to realize, wait a minute, he actually is changing. So that's what I mean by even in the bad things, God makes something good out of it. So I wasn't even, honestly, I was mad about it, but I was more mad at myself. I wasn't mad at Tom. I was mad at myself because I felt it was my fault that she had to go and find somebody else or have somebody else make her feel wanted. And that made me feel bad. So I wasn't even mad at Tom. Let me phrase that. I wasn't mad at Tom. I was mad at myself because I knew it was my fault. And I think that's why I didn't get mad. Because like I told her, I kind of expected it. She expected my wife to go out and cheat on me, believe it or not. It did not shock me when she came and told me that.
Wait, hold up. I never wanted to cheat.
I didn't say you wanted.
I just wanted to make it clear that I was not looking to cheat. It just had happened. You know what I'm saying?
I think you were in a vulnerable place, Tara. You were in a vulnerable place. And this saw your vulnerability, and they just kind of came in like a snake. And I think that's what we're talking about. We're talking about when you're in a vulnerable position and people and when you have these connections with people, things not right between you and your husband, and you got all of these female friends or all these male friends that you're in contact with, it's a way for the enemy to get in. So I like what you all said. Go ahead and cut them off. Go ahead and cut them off, and that will relieve you of this stuff instead of like keeping them and being like, well, things may not work out with my wife, so let me just go ahead and keep all of these friends. So it's important that we, it's that sacred family circle that we have to be mindful and keep that circle closed. So I think that's
right. What was that comment that just went through?
I think she said for men, nothing just happened.
For men,
nothing just happened.
Nothing just happened.
It was planned. This man had his eye on you, Tara. So you can say that, oh yeah, I'm gonna be.
I said men are predators. We are predators.
Yeah.
We're like, we got a bow and arrow, and we're aiming it for the deer. And when we find that deer, we lock in and we're gonna get that deer. Yeah. And then we go for it. So we come in slowly. We sneak in, and then boom. So
right. You know, if I wasn't paying attention to God, I'm serious. If I wasn't listening to Him, I definitely would have. It would have went left really quick. And then it would have put our marriage in a different situation. We already had been dealing with something already. So imagine if we also had to deal with adultery situation. You know what I mean?
And that's important.
So, you know, it just like got really messy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I hear you. What I'm hearing you saying over and over again for each of these situations is the importance of communicating. And that I think that's a good principle that I want to share with the ladies of just keeping open communication, not privately texting the opposite sex. But if you go text the opposite sex, say, hey, I text such and such. I mean, Brandon and I do this. We have, like, I'm kind of low tech when it comes to phone. So I'll use the phone to text some of my friends, and then he communicates with some people for me, you know? But I'll let him know I was talking to such and such, or he'll say such and such text me.
Yeah.
Open communication and not secret and not just holding on to these people. But again, let your husband or let your spouse be your best friend. And be interested.
Right. And that's why the only opposite, but I believe this, the only opposite gender friend I need is my wife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I mean, like I said, I have other friends that are her friends, my friends. But the one that I only confide in is my wife. I don't confide in nobody else. I keep it all between my wife and I. You know, and another thing too, like also, like you said, privacy. Like our phones. Like I know her code, she knows my code. And she'll tell you, I come home and I just put my phone down and she'll pick it up. And I won't be like, what are you doing? I just walk upstairs. I leave her on my own. She'll like, okay, let's do something, and she'll start looking at my phone and she's looking at more stuff. And I just sit there, I'm like, can I have my phone back? Because, like, I was using the phone. Like, that's the only way I acted for her back. But most times I just walk away because I don't have nothing. There's nothing for me to hide. I have nothing that I can't share with my wife, you know, in that aspect. She knows she pretty much knows everything. She knows everything. There's some things that I may forget.
Yeah.
Right. There may be some things I may have forgot. And then I say, you know, because, and I'm talking about stuff in the past. I'm not talking about future stuff or present stuff. I'm talking about stuff that happened, in the past that I may have shunned away or something. But pretty much that, and I think that's important too in a relationship. Is just have to open. There's no reason for your phone to be locked when you can't get into it. There's no reason. But at the same token, and I learned this from previous marriages, you sometimes don't look. If you have a gut feeling about something, most times it's true. So don't go looking for it, because when you find it, now you have to figure out how you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
If that makes, you know.
It makes sense. I think it's important what you said, Pedro, to just be open and honest, and you don't have to be living a secret life, you know, but I'm hearing from you all is that you respect each other. You know, I mean, Brent knows that, I mean, I'm going to be on his phone. I'm not trying to look for stuff, but he may not have told me something, you know, and I need to know what's going on with my children or somebody, you know, because we kind of share phones. But if he got something to hide, he probably feel a little strange if I get his phone, you know. But and it's like that's how we should be. We got one. We communicate with each other. And again, if I'm going to his phone looking, oh, were you talking such and such? I'm looking for trouble. And guess what? It's gonna probably be some trouble.
Yeah.
I'm approaching it. You have
trouble. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes, you want to be respected.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm not
at the end of the day,
correct. Respect each other's privacy and respect each other. If we're okay with the phone, that's fine. But don't do it, because I've heard trouble where women will get their husband's phone and they see a lot of terrible stuff because he's been living a secret life outside, and then she find it and they weren't communicating. But now you want to talk to me about what you found on my phone. Why don't you talk to me instead of just going on my phone?
Right. So I just think in a marriage, you either all in, you got to, you know, you committed to your union, you committed to the good and the bad, no matter what it is, just be able to face it right on, you know. And I think some people not fully committed, you know, they halfway in, they got one toe in and the other rest out, you know. So if people just ain't ready to really give their all, you know what I mean? Because they feel like, if I give my all, then they feel like it's a control factor, or you controlling me. You know, that's not what marriage is. Marriage is two people coming together in a union that God has put you together and you making it work because you love each other. That's
Mhm.
it.
And so our last
That's it.
question, thank you. I agree. After you stopped, why didn't y'all talk about it? Did you all talk about it, or was it kind of like you kind of didn't talk about it? Because I mean, we're talking about it now, but after you came back home, after Pedro said, come home, did y'all talk about it, or did you just kind of put it on the back table? How did that work out?
I think one time
We did talk about it.
we did speak about it one time. I asked him, I had said, Pedro, I just want to know, because I never really asked him. I said, why did you hit me? Why did you put your hands on me? Because I never really saw him as that person. You know what I mean? We was dating. And it always, that question was all in the back of my mind. Why? You sometimes feel like you want, it's an answer, or maybe he'll give me an answer I want to hear, or I was looking for something. And when he told me, he did it because one of his questions was, I don't know, I just did it. And then his next, when I asked him again, he was like, I did it a lot of times because I thought you wasn't happy. I said, you know what, I'm gonna give her a reason to leave. So I'm gonna just, that's what it is. And I appreciated his truthfulness, because I always wondered why. Why did you want to do it? But then I also realized that Pedro was dealing with a lot of anger in his life. And sometimes you're not going to get an answer for everything. As much as I wanted one, I think God was also letting me know that, just it is what it is, I guess, for me. But I wasn't mad at him. I wanted to answer, not that it was going to make me feel complete or it was going to fix how I felt. It was just, I was just happy to know that he was honest with me about it. He did it sometimes because he felt like I wasn't happy and he did it, or we had arguments. And I don't know. I didn't linger on it. Well, after we had the conversation and we talked about it, I wasn't going to keep reliving it every time, like, why?
That's funny, though, because we are reliving it.
We're talking about it now. But I'm just saying, I didn't want to.
In a good way.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to put it. Because even if I talk about it now, for instance, be like, you remember when that happened? Why did you do that? Well, why keep putting yourself back into that situation when you're trying to grow? And I knew if I stayed there and I had that type of mindset of just kept asking him why, he wasn't going to change it.
Yeah.
My quick answer. Go ahead. My quick answer would be pretty much, I thought about this question because we talked about it. And in all honesty, it happened at a certain point, but we should have talked about it. And the reason I say that is because it's weird. We didn't talk about it, but God did work through our marriage and work through me. But when we started doing the podcast and we started to, when we did the communication, the first episode, and marriage can, the God is real and raw, and then marriage can heal. I realized something. That we still had even though God had healed us and helped us, we still had a lot of unresolved issues and we still had questions. And I think talking about it like we've been doing these last year and a half or 2 years has allowed us to answer some of the questions that when she asked me, I said, I don't know. And it got me a chance to be able to think and understand why I did what I did. What was I thinking? Why was I doing it? Why did I really do it? So we didn't talk about it to each other, but we should have. But I don't think we was in that place yet or in that space yet. So I guess my answer would be more like, once you're in that space, you should talk about it. Because you have to kind of, even though she forgave me, some of the things I didn't forgive myself. So talking about it allowed me to forgive myself, allowed her to forgive herself, allowed her to forgive me, and then we could kind of move on and have a better understanding about what we went through during that time.
Yeah, that's important.
It really helps me even now when I talk about it, because I'm like, look at how far God has brought us. Like when I finally talked about it publicly, it really changed something in me. It made me realize, and other people that listen to our testimony that we got on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, a lot of people don't talk about these things. They don't want to share. I never looked at my husband as a monster, ever. I was more disappointed the fact that, that's not the Pedro that I knew. I was more disappointed because I knew Pedro knew better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I actually went to his parents and told his parents. And his father had said, if you have to leave, leave.
That's important.
Now, I'm not.
That's very important.
Yes.
To let people know what's going on. A few people to know what's going on. Not telling everybody your business, but just going on and being upfront for your safety, because that's what we wanted to talk about. And I think this kind of transitions to this final thing I wanted to touch on, because that your safety is important. We have other women because fight for your marriage, but we don't want to encourage husbands and wives to fight. We're talking about spiritual warfare. And if someone is fighting you, you do want to put personal boundaries in place for your safety. And I do commend you for doing that, Tara.
I definitely agree. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that, and just saying again, because we do mess up, whatever it's abuse or whatever it's, poor money management, whether it is, keeping a messy house, whatever it is, we're going to mess up, but just continue to kind of bring it, just saying, why you do this, why you do that. I mean, if they answered you, let's move forward. So Pedro,
right. I want to say one more thing. I think one thing that really helped me was not telling my parents or my family about what was really going on in our marriage, because I told them we was having issues. I believe if I told my family that I was actually getting abused, they would have never saw Pedro the way I see Pedro now. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
They never would have saw him like that. They would have never forgave him. You know what I mean? And I think that really helped, because now that my mother finally listened to our testimony, she said, you know what, I'm glad I didn't know.
Yeah.
But I am happy. I am happy to know that Pedro, that y'all in a better place now. That's what she said to me.
Amen. That's so glad to hear. I'm so happy that y'all in a better place and you're able to help other people now that you're in this better place. So as we wrap up, this is the last thing I want to touch on, is I want to just give Pedro an opportunity to just kind of talk about, because the ministry, we do encourage people to fight for their marriage, but just kind of, and I guess I kind of know the answer, but just how do we go about to say, I mean, because I think you learn and you grow, the things that you know now, you may not have known 20, 30 years ago when you was getting married,
Right.
So Pedro, you want to kind of touch on that? We had a question on YouTube that was just kind of asking about the other marriages. You want to touch on that, Pedro?
Oh, right.
Can you remind me of the question? I kind of forgot the question.
I was hoping you remembered. Let me do it like this. I think they were saying something about, okay, we're supposed to be fighting for your marriage.
Oh, about being divorced.
Yes.
About being divorced. Yeah. So I fought for my marriages, each one. My first one I fought for, but we was young and we didn't communicate. The second one I fought for, but it was just toxic. This one here I fought for and we're still together. I think fighting.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
The question was, I'm confused. I thought as long as our spouses are still living, the first spouse, I'm reading for everyone else. The first spouse I'm talking about, we are not to remarry. That's what they're saying.
All right.
And if they're saying if you were still legally married, then wasn't you committed adultery?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I messed up my whole thought.
I'm
Anyway,
so sorry.
that's okay. That's why I love you. So I feel like, sometimes in a marriage, it's not like you said. Sometimes you just like before I met her, I was fighting for that marriage. I fought for that marriage. It just was not gonna work. It was just, if we had stayed together, we wouldn't have been happy. It would have been toxic. It would have been just absolutely terrible. So it was by choice that I just had to let go. I tried. I went back and forth. Tyler knows I went back and forth, and it just did not work. Because you're changing tell me what you said one more time, Anika. I'm sorry. Because I had so much going in my head. What was you you asked the question, but you said about marriage and what?
Oh, I think she's addressing the question, but just going from we're fighting for our marriages. How can you kind of bring about what happened with the other marriages and going forward. And I think you touched on it to just say, you know, the things that are in the past, we're moving forward. You know, is that kind of your take on it?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, everybody, some people may not be happy that I divorced and moved on, but I mean, I know in my heart that I fought for my marriages. I can honestly say that both marriages, I was not just like, you know, so bad things happened. I was like, okay, I'm done. Because I grew up with I knew that, you know, marriage is for life. So I really did fight each time for my marriage and trying to keep it together. It just, you know, I always tell Tom, if I never met my second wife, there's a good chance I'm actually got back with my first wife, because as I got older, we learned to communicate better. So I think, you know, I if I never met Tom, I've never met my second wife. I can't remember, mid-20s.
You first got married?
No, 20.
You was 20 years old.
Yeah, I was 20, and then my second I was 23, 24.
Okay.
But I would have probably actually got back, because it was just really about communication with the first marriage, you know. But by the time we matured, we have both moved on. She had found somebody that she's still with to this day, and I found well, two others, but you know what I mean. We moved on. But I think fighting for my marriage, I know that I give my all in fighting for my marriage. And one thing I learned throughout this whole thing, was also from your book and also just through our experience, is that everything in the marriage, I put it all on me. I mean, I put it on both of us, but the way the marriage goes, I put it on me, because as the husband, it's my responsibility to make sure that we succeed. So even if she gets emotional or she gets off kilter a little bit, I've learned to ease back and ask questions and understand and try to comprehend where she's coming from and listen. And more than anything, just listen. Why are you reacting this way? And then come up with a plan to try to make it better, or try to fix whatever issue she may have and whatever issue I may have. But yeah, that would be the best way I can answer that question in that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I met you, you was divorced. You wasn't married.
I wasn't divorced yet.
You wasn't fully divorced.
I wasn't fully divorced.
Okay.
But I didn't know that, to my defense.
But see, right? See, I thought in my mind.
Okay, don't.
I'm just saying. I'm just letting people know. Some of the questions.
No, I thought I was divorced. And when I met her, I thought I was divorced. I filled the paperwork out. But when I got a letter from the court saying that you're not fully divorced, I was like, oh, heck no. I jumped in my car and the next day, drove straight to New York and got it properly done. And then I came right back like 2 days later. So, yeah, when we first met, I was not technically, but we wasn't talking. We was just talking.
We wasn't that serious.
Right, we was talking, right.
Yeah, but I know one thing. I was like, wait a minute, because I never was in the game trying to be with no married man. That was never my thing, just to make it clear.
Y'all have done a good job answering the questions, y'all. I appreciate you all taking the time to answer these questions that the ladies have shared. And I just want to wrap it up. I hear communication. That is so key. Communication, communicate. And I think that's what has allowed y'all to make it so well and so strong these 17 years, is by communicating, you know, and just keeping the doors of communication open. And what I hear is that whether it's your first marriage or your second marriage, you got to learn. You got to be willing to ask questions, be willing to try to empathize and understand what your spouse is saying and make necessary changes. Listen to what the problem is and try to go assess the problem and address it and try to find some solutions. And that's what I've heard you all say through this whole thing, is communicate. So with that being said, can you tell us how my people can communicate with you, Tara and Pedro? What's the best way to connect with you, and just tell us where they can find you on the internet, please?
Well, on YouTube, you can find us at Marriage Can Heal podcast. You can find us there. It'll pop up. It's like a black symbol on the. It's too close, but it's definitely you can find us at. And also, if you want to email us, it's Marriage Can Heal. Oh, put it in the thing. Marriage Can Heal podcast at gmail.com. Well, Peter, instead of typing in the chat.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. And so I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, Marriage Can Heal podcast with Pedro and Tara. They've been our guests today, and they've taken some time to just share some of their life experiences and some words of wisdom from a happily married couple with 17 plus years. All right, Marriage Can Heal podcast on YouTube. Thank you.